get that same respect.
You're missing what I'm saying. I still give you the respect,
exactly
but you don't.
I give you the respect.
You don't give me respect. You always have a slick comment with anything.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Alright, cool. Let's talk about it. It's part 2 of Denice versus Adrianna, the war. Alright, listen, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for a notification of the what uploads. And for those of you who are returning as well, you got the minerals, you got the minerals. Alright, cool. And let's talk about it because it's a real deal. Look, I told you, when it comes to war, I love it. But when it comes to war and you see it on your screen like this, you got to appreciate all the things that are happening. So let me break down something. Like I said to you guys, we spoke about 33 strategies of war in part 1. We're continuing that in this thing here because we're talking about war. So in this particular instance, when it comes to dating, there are different strategies that you can take to win and accomplish your task. Many people actually implement wars of strategy in their movements. They just don't realize they're doing it. Now, in part 2, we see a conversation between Adrianna and Denice that takes place. But before this one takes place, there is another conversation that happens between Adrianna, Rashid, Edwin and Simone, and this is where we're going to start our conversation because there are 2 types of war going on. There are 2 types of implementation or strategy that goes on. Denice consistently uses deterrence. I told you about this, where it creates an intimidating presence, okay, where she will try to trip you up by using her presence, create bluffs so you're feeling intimidated, which actually did kind of work when she was talking to Adrianna later on, because Adrianna looked like she was about to be in tears. I ain't gonna lie to you, okay?
Right? That's what we here for. I'm not out here to find bonds with friends and girls.
And I'm not trying to be your friend, but it's just a respect level. That's what I was saying.
But Adrianna used a very clever movement in this particular war strategy. She was using the thing turning and exposing to attack the enemy's flank. Okay. Now, what this means is what this means is basically you expose the enemy. Okay. You expose the enemy to a point where you can see the weak links of them, right? And the weak link here was that when Denice was saying all the stuff she was saying in the actual hub or the cave, she was talking about Rashid and etc, right? This initiated the war. But what happened is that she also exposed herself, because once she said that Rashid was a narcissist and incorrectly labeled him as a narcissist, she opened herself up to the flanks. Okay, the flanks in any war is like, let's say let's say you have a middle and then the side partings, right? She exposed her sides, right? And so what happened is, in that, Adrianna used that against her. She used her own force and strength against her. It was a great, what we call also counterattack, right? So what Adrianna did was that she had the conversation about what was said in the cave in front of Rashid, but not only Rashid, but also Edwin. This is to make sure, number 1, to guarantee this gets out of the camp, because these 2 are not going to keep it to themselves, number 1, but just to make sure Rashid doesn't keep it just to himself and address Denice by himself, had Edwin there as well. Not only that, Simone is there. Now, Simone can't keep a secret for nothing, so that's getting around.
Now, I didn't know if this was like a secret I was supposed to keep or something, but I'm not good at keeping those kind of secrets. You didn't do a good job.
That is going to get around, okay? Now, that could slightly backfire on Adrianna as well, because Simone could tell the other girls, and other girls could look at her, look at Adrianna a certain way. But this definitely means that's going to get to the boys, yeah? That's a guarantee, it's getting to the boys. Somehow, some way, all the boys are going to know. And the reason why is because you've got to remove the strength of your enemy, like I said in part 1, by removing the guys that are going to give her the strength, which is the guys who are going to like her, right? Which is only California and Anthony. Okay. So when she had this conversation with Edwin, Rashid and Simone, I think it was a very important conversation. Aside the war, it was a very important conversation. Now, she intentionally brought it up to these people, to Rashid at this moment.
Initially that you were in my top, and she instantly said, oh, I kind of get a narcissistic vibe from him.
Narcissistic?
Yeah.
Me?
And she's like, oh, well, he's tall, he's light-skinned, he's in a fraternity.
Yeah. She obviously thought about it and said, let me say it to these people because I need to make sure this gets maximum exposure without it looking bait, like I'm calling everybody to come and conversate. No, I'll make it like we were just coming out the pool and then it's on my mind and I pressed it to you, right? But now there are witnesses who can also collaborate or corroborate the story, you know what I mean? Cool. So when the conversation actually happens, we see that obviously, Rashid was hurt by the accusation. I think that's fair. I think if you, and when she laid it out as to what the reason was for why she called Rashid a narcissist.
Oh, he's light-skinned, he's in a fraternity.
What they got to do with anything, though?
Exactly,
like, really?
exactly.
This is blowing my mind right now.
As Adrianna is sharing this information with me, it actually really hurt because
He said to himself, like, what? You mean the facts? I'm tall, light-skinned, I've been in a frat. Like, that makes me a narcissist? Like, there was no evidence presented by Denice as to why she's labeled him a narcissist. Now, many people might think, why are we still going over the same comment? But the point of the matter is, you label someone a narcissist and you're not refuting it. You're now not going back on it. You're not saying sorry for it. Even when she had a conversation with Adrianna, she said, listen, maybe I am triggered. But if you're triggered, sis, and you potentially are projecting here, why not apologize?
It might, certain things he said, yeah, might be a trigger for me. And that's my own. I said what I said, and I can't take that back.
Why not apologize? Because you said it out in the open now, right? You've tarnished another brother's name, yeah, because of how you felt, but we don't know if that's correctly labeled. You couldn't even give the proper definition of what narcissism was, so therefore now we're now frustrated. Okay, so of course he's going to be hurt by that because there is no, it seems like there's a baselessness to your argument. Okay, you know, and then when obviously the conversation was added, I think he was so hurt that he asked Simone as well, as a you know, a lighter skinned woman as well, how about your experiences? And when she described that men, black men especially, and this is real true, black men especially with colorist ideas where they do not want to date dark-skinned women, where they even say you're pretty for a dark-skinned woman, or they may say, you know, I don't date dark-skinned women, right? And those kind of thoughts have come out. And what it opened up the conversation to be was that when Rashid added, he said, listen, you know, as a woman, Adrianna too, you've been judged for your skin tone before. And Denice too, I'm sure she's been judged by her skin tone. Why then judge me?
So because you're going to judge me by that. Because let me ask you guys a question. You hear women say this all the time. You don't want to be objectified by your body, your sexuality, what you wear.
Right.
Well, those rules should apply both ways.
Yeah.
By my skin tone. And this is where I'm going to have a conversation, because I think I mentioned this comment in our last video where we talked about Denice and the fans' comments. And I wanted you guys to have a really respectful conversation about this. There is also the reverse. When I say reverse, not colorism, but reverse in the sense of the fact that there are some aggrieved dark-skinned people, not just men, not just women, but both men and women. We know about the men anyway because they turn against the women anyway. But there are some dark-skinned women who can overcompensate and then label because of what they've experienced in the past, right? And this is what we're seeing with Denice. This is not all dark-skinned women, please. A lot of us dark-skinned people ain't even on that wave, my G. But there are some dark-skinned women who are so hurt and broken by what they've gone through, they do have these ideas, right? And so we see it in play with Denice, yeah. And so unfortunately, Denice has. And then when Adrianna again, and someone might say Adrianna's messy. I think personally she was very calculated about it. Yes, I definitely believe she was calculated. And again, this was war. I told you, when you do war and you bring up to sly little comment like, well, men will try you, then you've asked for war. Don't complain when war comes to your doorstep. When she then finally explains some of the points as well, she made a very good point. That some of our language that we use in the black community especially.
To really just watch even the smallest things that we say, sometimes like, oh, you're doing that light skin stuff, and just try to nip that in the bud so that way we don't pass that down to the kids. Exactly.
Is problematic, and we don't see it as colorism because we're saying something about light-skinned people. Same way like we might say something about a white person, right? But when we say things like, oh, you're behaving light-skinned right now, this is also a contributing thought towards that place, right? We are contributing towards a perpetual cycle of dysfunction and toxicity and colorist ideas, even though we're the ones that are being hurt by it, dark-skinned people. Right? And so when we say things like that, you do light skin stuff or rah, 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 these are actually problematic sentences and terms, and they shouldn't be used at all. All right? All right. So now let's deal with the actual argument. Let's deal with the actual argument between Denice and Adrianna. Again, I want to see this again. Adrianna leads the pack. She's doing it very intentionally. Now she does it. Look, she pulls Denice aside, right? But she's the one that pulled Denice.
What's going on?
So I want to talk to you about a few things that was bothering me. We were talking.
So now, remember, this is in front of eyes. Again, witnesses. This woman's very, very clever. She's almost like somebody who's pre-planned, making sure she's in front of all the cameras so everyone can see what the movements are. She's made it in front of everybody now. So now when the conversation comes out, whatever conversation they've had, it's like, well, no, Adrianna's actually a peacemaker. She went over there to have a conversation. She pulled her aside. So she's pulled her aside, showing, and that again just shows a more softer side, right? And remember, Denice is already building up a picture of being hard, and being hard and dark skin, I already told you about this, is playing into the angry black woman stereotype, right? And regardless of whether we agree with it or not, it is something that is in our society that's been said, and so therefore most of us are aware, but we're also not. But what a lot of us are not aware of is the detriment and the residue of those notions that play in our mind. So when we're seeing something now, if Denice gets angry, you may see it as a little bit more angry. If you see Denice is aggressive, you might see it as a little bit more aggressive. These are the this is the feedback that happens when we're indoctrinated with certain thoughts. So now Denice and Denice has been pulled aside by Adrianna. And Adrianna's, asks her about the comment about the narcissism thing. And Denice suddenly kind of backtracks. Sis, you were not talking about insecurity before.
With being a narcissist.
I said certain people, not all, use certain things to cover up certain insecurities that they have. So I don't know what his insecurities are.
You were not. And I'm sorry if you use the wrong word, you come out and you apologize. If you've used a wrong word where you've used insecurity instead of narcissism, you backtrack and you apologize. You don't continue forward. But we see from the next episode example, she's not going to give up that word. She meant narcissism. So now you saying, saying, no, that's not what I meant, sis. I meant that obviously that it's covering up, that his behavior is covering up some kind of insecurity. No, sis, you meant what you said, Denice. You meant narcissism. You meant narcissistic traits. You meant what you said. And so now, okay, I can't defend that because you don't have a proper definition of narcissism. Evidently, because of what you described. If somebody describing narcissism, I would never mention their color ever. Ever. I have light-skinned boys. Listen, some of my boys are light-skinned. I've never thought to myself that I've linked their behavior with being light-skinned. Never. I don't even need to. Forget even narcissism. I don't need to link their behavior. To me, they're black anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, listen, they're good-looking people. Girls like them. It is that is it. It's over. There's no other conversation around it. Do you know what I'm saying? The overemphasis of color that she mentioned showed that there potentially is this overemphasis on skin tone that maybe in her past that has played a huge role in the way that she has grown up. Okay? She said she recognizes the signs, the baby signs and everything like that. And it's like I see what you're saying, Denice, that you may recognize the signs, and you're right. You're a bit more grown. You might have gone through life a bit more. You may be able to recognize the signs. But then if you recognize signs, there's also a way to communicate what you recognize. And if you recognize the signs, surely you should understand the terminology to its fullest, because since you recognize the signs, right? And so for me, it was a bit hogwash. There was a backtracking for me. And for me, I didn't like that. Like, if you on it, you on it, right? But Denice, again, kind of wrestles the conversation. She's dominant when it comes to conversation. And I think what's interesting about Denice is the fact that Adrianna kind of drew out exactly what we've been kind of saying, which is that you don't let people talk. You don't let them finish. You don't listen. And in fact, Califani himself, the man that you're liking, even said earlier on, Denice wasn't listening, right? Like, so this is not something that we've drawn out. She's not listening, and so when she's talking to Denice, she says, I wanted to say as a woman, and then she changed her attack. She changed it. Why? Because at that point, what I believe is that she felt like she expected the backing of women to be on her for noticing something that's narcissistic.
It's my own opinion. Right. As a woman, you can respect it.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with you. Why you have to talk to me about it?
Or noticing bad behavior from a guy. And it's like, no, sis, ain't nobody backing you. Like, almost like, we should be on the same team. It's us against them. It's the guys who are bad. We're the good people, right? And this is actually a war strategy. It's called a righteous war strategy, which is you occupy the moral high ground, okay? You represent yourself as good and the opponent as bad. And you make them make the first obvious move. Unfortunately, she didn't do that part. And the whole point of being righteous is that you're meant to not ruin your reputation. So when she incorrectly labeled incorrectly labeled, Rashid. She actually incorrectly used the war strategy.
To do with you, why you have to talk to me about it? Because that's your man. You ain't gotta come to me trying to check me.
Aren't you saying Rashid is your man? Why are you trying to get onto Kalafani? Aren't you meant to be on Rashid? How is it now you're flipping the script to go with Kalafani? What is happening here is that the leakage of the inner person of jealousy, right, which is natural for all us human beings, most of us anyway, is starting to creep out. That confidence that you had at the beginning, that unpenetrable skin that you had at the beginning, that vibe and strength that you had at the beginning is now beginning to leak, and it's beginning to break the mask, right? Because now you're stressed about a girl who barely had any real contact with Kalafani. You've had more contact, more conversation, more time with him, but you're stressed now because you feel that someone is getting too close. All right? So that's why you're trying to flip the script by saying about Rashid. Right, you want to remind her about Rashid. She knows about Rashid. This is what Kalafani said to her as well. It is a dating thing. We're getting to know people. You cannot box it right now, unless you've had that conversation already, like Naya and KG. You cannot box this man. And we're going to talk about their relationship because Kalafani is really not on the same wavelength as Denice. I'll get there. We'll get there. Let me not talk too soon. You understand? And so. I saw what Denice was doing here, trying to remind her, listen, you've got a man at home, stay there. I'm doing my own thing. And she actually said, listen, I'm doing my thing and you're doing your thing. When you do your thing with Rashid, I don't interrupt. And the same with us, the same with myself. I'm with Kalafani, don't interrupt. And it's like, Denice is trying to ward off every other woman around to make sure she gets a hold of this king. But the truth of the matter is, if the king wants to wander, he wants to wander. If he wants to gander, he can gander. If he wants to panda, he can panda. You understand? Duck, duck, goose thing. You feel me? I don't know why I said that. That made no sense. And so, then we see that Adrianna pulls up the fact that she felt like she's not getting respect from Denice. And this is why I said that a lot of her passive-aggressive behaviors will inevitably lead down the road of disrespect. We as an audience will consistently see her behavior as disrespect. The same way she treated David, disrespect. You know what I'm saying? The way that she was talking to Rashid, disrespect. The way she mentioned about her narcissism, disrespect. Right? And so now we're getting a comment about being disrespectful because of a passive aggressive.
Well, that's what I was saying.
I respect you. What more respect do you want me to give?
One, let me finish my sentence whenever I'm talking. And then two, like I said, in the Love Lounge when we were talking. And, her slick comments that she made. She made it with Rashid when you're doing Jenga. He did it in the cave with men try it who they can try it with. So we're seeing one or two slick comments from her, and it's not necessary. And so now, even when that is mentioned, she says, "It is what it is, boo." And she didn't even let her finish the sentence. I'm coming to you and you coming for me.
It is what it is, boo.
Again, it's like, see, so Denice is looking combative. She's looking passive aggressive. She's looking like somebody that doesn't listen. She's like somebody who doesn't want to, that wants to control everything. You're just looking in a bad light. This may not be you, but the competition is drawing this out of you. Because just like here, we're seeing that same competitive, controlling nature of the conversation in the same vein when you were in the pool. In the pool, as Adrianna mentioned, like, you want to hit everything. Baby, leave some for everybody. You got a whole team in her. Is it you against the boys, or is it your team against the boys? Right? And so again, that controlling nature, that competitive nature, that wanting to win nature at all costs has started to come through. Right? And just as she said, she's not here for friendships. Boo, we know. Boo, we know. You ain't here for friendships. We know that. That's why you're not forming friendships with other people. But that's also going to be a costly mistake, because now, again, the only strength that you have is Kalafani. And if we can take Kalafani out of the equation, you are no longer strong, right? And so, I saw that she began to express why she felt the way she felt and what made her triggered. And the thing is that she actually admitted that that potentially could be triggered. And that frustrated me. How are you going to mention that potentially you could be triggered and still continue the way you're going on about Rashid? Do you know what I'm saying? And so obviously the fact that she mentioned her story to Adrianna, as if like Adrianna should care.
I've been in a relationship with a man who is a narcissist, and I almost lost my life. I was missing for 4 days.
And bear in mind, you're not. You already said you're not here for friendships. You're here for love. I don't know why you'll be telling her your portion of story to get her to understand. She's not going to be your friend, right? But the point is, you told her the story to try to, because you really want someone to understand you, right? You don't want to be alienated all the time. And I think that was your almost last plea to get her to understand you. But at the same time, it was also a plea as well to try and keep her away from your man. And so, you know, I appreciate the fact she shared that. Then Adrianna went back to Rashid and expressed that, listen, she's been through some deep things, but that cannot excuse your behavior. And I want to say this as well, as you're dating, that cannot excuse your behavior. If it's bad, it's bad. So guys, I don't know. Let us know your thoughts down below. Comment down below. Like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notification of the what? Uploads, baby. We appreciate. Stay locked and stay loaded.